We have some bad news for Donald Trump, and that is great news for us because his cabinet nominees are backfiring, not just because they are so unfit, unqualified, and really just dangerous, and they should be nowhere near government, not just because they might not make it through a confirmation hearing, but because if they don't, MAGA is going to rage. And that is already happening because there are reports that Donald Trump is reconsidering his choice of Pete Hegseth to lead the Department of Defense. And MAGA is absolutely furious about it and lashing out at Donald Trump. And we are going to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really means the world to me. Now, before we get into this breaking news of MAGA lashing out at Donald Trump, I want to hear an update on all this new reporting about Pete Hegseth from Lawrence O'Donnell right here.
Well, exactly 2 weeks ago at this very hour, I had seen enough of what was happening to Matt Gaetz's nomination for Attorney General in the United States Senate to declare with confidence right here that Matt Gaetz would not, could not be confirmed, wasn't going to happen. And just 2 days later, Donald Trump then withdrew Matt Gaetz's nomination for Attorney General. And tonight, Pete Hegseth's confirmation for Secretary of Defense has now hit the same wall in the United States Senate that blocked the Gaetz nomination. Pete Hegseth is not going to be confirmed for Secretary of Defense. It's all over. If we're on the same schedule we were on with the Matt Gaetz nomination, that means Donald Trump will give up on Pete Hegseth on Thursday. As I explained here last night, it only takes one Republican on the Senate Armed Services Committee to kill the Hegseth nomination in that committee. I also pointed out that that committee has 2 Republican women who will be the first senators to vote on the Hegseth nomination in that committee. And NBC News is now reporting that one of those women is now planning to make that a very, very difficult confirmation hearing for Pete Hegseth if he somehow dares to show up for that 2 months from now. NBC News broke the news today of the number of Senate Republicans who are not supporting the Hegseth nomination. It only takes 4 Senate Republicans added to all the Democrats to defeat any Republican nomination on the Senate floor in the full Senate vote. And NBC News is reporting as many as 6 Senate Republicans, perhaps more, are currently not comfortable supporting Hegseth's bid to lead the Pentagon as new revelations about the former Fox News anchor's past continue to be made public. And you can be absolutely sure that there will be no information about Pete Hegseth coming out that will make any senators more comfortable in supporting his nomination. NBC News reports Senator Joni Ernst, Republican of Iowa, who sits on the Armed Services Committee, would not commit to supporting Hegseth's nomination and said she planned to grill the former cable news host about news accounts of his alleged alcohol abuse, mistreatment of women, and financial mismanagement. We're just going to have a really frank and thorough conversation, Ernst said of Hegseth's nomination process. Pete Hegseth cannot survive a really frank and thorough conversation. That is Republican Senator Joni Ernst's way of saying Hegseth doesn't have a chance.
When we first learned that Donald Trump was nominating Pete Hegseth to head up the DOD, the gut check reaction was, really? A weekend Fox host, someone with no experience leading an organization. And then, as we've talked about in previous videos, we learned that he does have experience leading organizations that he was kicked out of for his sexual misconduct, his erratic behavior, his drinking problem. This is someone who is just completely out of control, and the only experience he has is failing leading small organizations, so there's no reason he should be in the biggest one in the world. And that is why Donald Trump is reconsidering this choice, reportedly not really all that happy with Pete Hegseth, and MAGA is furious about it, and I want to get into all of that right here. MAGA meltdown as Trump considers DeSantis to replace Hegseth. Some in MAGA Nation are upset that Donald Trump is considering Ron DeSantis to replace Pete Hegseth as his pick for defense secretary, both because the Florida governor once ran a primary campaign against President-elect Trump, and also because he has so far been unwilling to make Trump's daughter-in-law a senator. Trump's mulling of DeSantis comes as Hegseth, the former Fox host who Trump controversially chose to head the Department of Defense, has faced accusations of sexual assault, infidelity, and alcohol abuse, which, paired with concern over his level of qualification for the role, undoubtedly spells trouble for his Senate confirmation. We saw tweets like this all over Twitter from MAGA. Report President Trump is considering replacing Pete Hegseth with Ron DeSantis for the Secretary of Defense. No, keep Hegseth. And from Roger Stone's family member, no, absolutely not. There was plenty of melting down all over Twitter from MAGA, and I don't want to read all of the ridiculous things they wrote because I just don't want to listen to MAGA. But it's pretty funny to watch them melt down. It's pretty funny for them to realize that no, Donald Trump is not just going to do whatever they want or that their ideals aren't in line. I think that MAGA thinks that they are in lockstep with Trump and Trump cares about them. That is not the case. He does not like this bad press around Pete Hegseth, and it's more than just bad press. These are disgusting reports that, again, make him completely unqualified for this role, along with the fact that he has no qualifications for this role. Just listen to Lee, I Am Politics Girl, go off on Pete Hegseth right here.
This is ridiculous.
Well, one thing
trash.
to know that Pete Hegseth has actually not denied these things. He's just avoiding questions about them. But
If I may, that is a very long article. I agree with you. There's a lot of things that Pete has allegedly done. And whether it is that he's stolen from the organizations he's run, or he has endless drug escapades, or he has white nationalist tattoos, or he's raped women, whatever it is that he says or he has allegedly done. No, I'm saying, hold on, that's all reported. But here's what I'm saying. The biggest thing people need to understand
I don't think
is,
ashamed of
yourself. If I may.
Let me just correct one thing. I don't think there were
white nationalist tattoos. You mean Christian tattoos?
Hold on. He didn't. The allegation was not that he stole from the organizations, but that he mismanaged
the money.
Continue.
So I would say the biggest thing to remember is that the Secretary of Defense is involved in every issue of our national security. Involved in, I don't know why you're laughing, involved in the use of nuclear weapons, is sending our troops into combat, approving drone strikes. There are literal life and death issues in the hands of the U.S. Secretary of Defense every day. And on the alcohol alone, you cannot give someone a job like that who has a drinking problem, someone who might be incapacitated for multiple reasons.
You're going to continue to defame the guy. You don't know him. You don't know he has a drinking problem.
I'm not his best friend, which you apparently are. But what I'm saying is, this is a huge job that is not partisan.
Hold on a second.
I am not done.
Please stop.
I am not done.
Hold on. Lee, just stop for just a second. Just stop. No. I want to let's clear the decks for 1 second.
Please,
absolutely. So that we can all stop talking at the same time, and then you can continue. Go ahead.
It is not partisan to say that Pete can't do this job. It is practical. It is about keeping the country safe. It is about the safety of our troops. He is being hired. He has been potentially hired to run the world's largest and most lethal military force. You cannot play games with that. And this man has too many skeletons in his closet to put him in charge of such a large organization.
This shouldn't even be a conversation, and I cannot believe that it is. I know that there are no backbones in the Senate when it comes to the Republican caucus, but how are there not more people already standing up and saying, I cannot support this guy? We have Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski. There's been some discussion of whether Joni Ernst will support Pete Hegseth or not. But really, only 3 people are willing to stand up to this dangerous of an individual. And the worst part is, if Hegseth does ultimately withdraw his name, or if Trump gives him the old boot, really, Ron DeSantis, even when we're winning or losing, I know it would technically be better, but gosh, it just doesn't sound great. But considering that we do have to deal with the kind of depressing news of all of this, I think it is only fair, if we're talking Ron DeSantis, to watch him get his butt kicked by Gavin Newsom. So let's check out that clip right here.
I love this guy talking about backing the blue when you dangled pardons for January 6 insurrectionists, 85 of them that were charged with attacking law enforcement. You talk a big game about backing the blue. With all due respect to the crime rate, again, he's not answering the fact that he has a higher murder rate than the state of California, a 66% higher gun death rate than the state of California. And I can easily answer this point. Gun safety saves lives. I don't think it, I know it. And the data bears that out in the state of California. California proudly does lead in terms of common sense gun safety. Common sense gun safety saves lives. You had the chance to do something meaningful. You had a chance to do something on behalf of those Parkland families. You did the exact opposite. You moved in the exact opposite direction. With all due respect, look at your own backyard, Ron.
So
You're not mining your backyard on this issue.
If we're going to be talking about Ron DeSantis potentially becoming Secretary of Defense, we have to see defenseless Ron DeSantis get crushed by Gavin Newsom. That alone should disqualify Ron DeSantis. That right there is he couldn't defend himself from the onslaught of attacks, the brutal takedowns from Governor Gavin Newsom. These people are a mess. But we're going to keep calling them out every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.